We're not going to be prepared for war. We're not prepared now, ladies and gentlemen. We're not psychologically prepared, which is a separate issue. But we spend so much time on stupid stuff. I want to talk about this Chinese jet going after our spy plane in neutral territory. Our Secretary of Defense is asked to meet with his equivalent in Communist China. They said no. Because they're planning for war, ladies and gentlemen. They have nothing to say. One of the things that's not discussed about this budget is the defense budget increases 3%. That's way below inflation. So you increase the defense budget 3%, but inflation's at 6%. That's a negative 3%. While every other aspect of the budget's going up. I said to one of my dear friends, Chip Roy, I said, how come nobody's talking about the defense budget? And that does need to be increased. And he said, I'll support that if we can cut it from the domestic side. I said, but we can't, because the Democrats aren't going to allow us. So what does that mean? We're not going to be prepared for war. We're not prepared now, ladies and gentlemen. We're not psychologically prepared, which is a separate issue. But we spend so much time on stupid stuff. Again, the budget is not stupid stuff, but I know stupid stuff when I see it, and so do you. The fact of the matter is, there ought to be programming constantly, and I talk about it constantly here, on radio and on Fox. China is preparing for war, and we are not preparing to defend ourselves with the level of spending that's taking place here. So that's an issue too. Let's look at this. Cut 3, go.
Dramatic new video from the Department of Defense shows a close encounter between a Chinese fighter jet and a U.S. reconnaissance plane. The Indo-Pacific Command says the Chinese jet came within 400 feet of the American aircraft on Friday, causing it to shake as it flew through the turbulence wake. Officials have called it an unnecessarily aggressive and unprofessional maneuver by the Chinese pilot. The U.S. says its plane was operating in accordance with international law.
Look at this. You don't see the rest of it because of the dashboard there, but I mean, he takes a, boom, flies right near it. And I'm telling you, they're aggressive. They think they can defeat us. That's their mindset. They're humiliating this administration publicly. They want nothing to do with discussions. They, I think, feel that they are transitioning to replacing the United States as the number one superpower in the world, and I mean superpower militarily, geographically, and economically. And I'm afraid that is happening. That is happening, and it's happening for a number of reasons. Number one, Biden and his administration. Number two, we have people in our own party, if you're a Republican, we have people in our own party who sound very much like George McGovern these days. It's very bizarre. And number three, we're just not spending enough on defense. There's another part of the world where I'm concerned war is going to break out. We're not paying enough attention to it. I-24 News is an Israeli station, but this is in English. And IDF chief warns about Iran. Iran is this close, as I keep saying, to having its nukes and being able to put them on top of a missile. Go.
An Iranian official says any Israeli attack on its nuclear facilities would spark a wider regional war. He spoke to Al Jazeera network after top Israeli leadership yesterday sent threats towards Iran. In a thinly veiled threat, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant on Tuesday said the recent fighting in the Gaza Strip pales in comparison to the complexity and difficulty of the main goal that Israel is preparing for.
The missions in Shield and Arrow were carried out with great success, but the main goal, for which we are preparing, is more complex, more difficult, and more significant. You need to be prepared at any moment.
Rafael Yerushalmi, an intelligence officer previously at the IDF and a security analyst, joins us now here in studio. Thank you very much for coming in. Yesterday, we hear the same message from the Chief of Staff of the IDF, from the Prime Minister, and from Minister of Defense. Are those the drums of war that we're hearing?
They might be, because there are disquieting elements and factors coming from Iran. They really are advancing very far into their nuclear program. They're also arming themselves with very sophisticated equipment. We also have the coming of the Sukhoi 22 planes from Russia, a better air defense system. All this means that the window of opportunity for a successful Israeli attack is getting smaller and smaller. There might be a need to strike before what we thought would be the proper time to do so. The message, of course, is addressed to the enemy. There's a bit of psychological warfare there, clear signals to the enemy, but also to the potential allies. I think as parallelly to this, we have some kind of negotiations with Saudi Arabia. Yeah. We are telling the Saudis, can we count on you? Will you be there? So there's also a regional message addressed to Arabic countries. Will you be with us in a fight against Iran?
Now, is it Iran only that they are hinting towards? What about Hezbollah and pockets of Iran and Hezbollah, both in Lebanon and in Syria?
Yes, it's Iran and the proxies, but of course Hezbollah is the main threat. I mean, Iran is still a bit of a science fiction thing, because it would indeed, the Iranians on that one are right, it would lead into a large scale warfare, combat involving the whole region, destabilizing the whole region and maybe part of the world. But right now we have a much more local but painful threat is the Hezbollah, because of the number of missiles and rockets that they have, around 120,000, maybe 150,000, and this would be a very, very complicated war. First of all, because of the civilian price on the Israeli side, some of these rockets would reach their targets and we would have civilian casualties, but also on the military side, on the other side, if we do have to enter Lebanese territory, it will be a very dangerous fight. We have not such good experience and memories from the last time we did so in 2006, and this is much more worrisome and intricate. Somehow the smaller enemy is more complicated to deal with than the larger threat of the Iranians.
Last, how interlinked are these announcements yesterday by the three top leaders here in Israel to the political developments in the Knesset with the budget being passed? Does Netanyahu now have a green light to act?
Well, Nato is always suspected of using security threats as a push for his political moves. He's Mr. Security. He's promising, to lead the country to victory and to make sure we are safe. He's always suspected of that. But right now, I think he can be above suspicion. The situation is really threatening, disquieting, and dangerous. And I think, even though it might feel a bit exaggerated that so many signals are set at the same time, I think they should be sent, and people should be aware. And I think the Chief of Staff, Herzia Levi, said it about Hassan Nasrallah. People should be aware of what we think. They should not misinterpret what we say. So I think they wanted to make it clear to the enemy that we know exactly what we are facing, that we are trying to get ready for it. We know we have some weaknesses. We have to improve on certain points. We are all conscious of what's going on, and the enemy should know that.
Okay. Raphael Yerushalmi, thank you very much.
Now think about this. I mean, Israel it's surrounded. Well, there's the Mediterranean Sea on one side, and there's no question the Iranians will use their navy to attack if there's an all-out war. And then you have, to the north, you have Hezbollah, which is basically a major military unit of the Iranian regime. And you heard what he said, 150,000 rockets. I mean, you'd really have to blast away. Then you have Hamas, which is in the Golan Heights. They're there too. You've got Syria, which is on the border of Israel, up near the Golan Heights. And then you've got, of course, Iran. And, as advanced as Israel's technologies are, it's a small country. It only has a certain number of people. And a large percentage of those people will be called up in the military and are in the reserves. I mean, I think it's from age like 18 to 60 or 62. I'm not 100% sure of that, but it's up there. And females as well in many of the positions in the military, because they need the people. They don't have enough people. So this could get ugly very, very fast. And you can see the problem. If Iran gets a nuke, they can blackmail and threaten Israel and anybody else in the Middle East, and it'll be a completely different ballgame there. Completely different ballgame.
For all this and much more, sign up for Levin TV.